Erik, thank you so much for joining us here at FundForum International.
My pleasure.
You've been offering some fascinating insights this morning, and much of that surrounded the data revolution, what's changing, how this industry needs to adopt that change or it will be left behind.
That's right. Yeah, I think we're seeing a change not just in the technology and the availability of data, but also in the culture of decision making. For most of human history, for thousands of years, people made decisions based on their opinions. Whoever was the highest paid person in the organization, the hippo, that was who made the decisions. But now we're switching to data-driven decision making because we have people who can analyze the data and go by what we know to be true, not just by what someone's opinion is.
And there's also a real change in looking to the crowd for more information too.
That's right. You know, most companies try to hire the very best people for their organization, but no matter how many smart people they hire, the fact will always be true that most of the smart people in the world are outside your organization. So if you can find a way to tap into that wisdom outside your company, but through these crowd-based innovation platforms, then you can make your company more innovative and more effective.
What resistance do you see to change like this in industries like asset management that have done it the same way for so long?
Well, it's exactly what you said. Companies have done it the same way for so long, and ironically, the most successful companies are often the ones that are most resistant to change. After all, what they've been doing the old way has been working. But now we have new technologies that make it possible to make decisions in a new way, that make it possible to tap into the crowd in a new way, that make it possible to use artificial intelligence. And that means that what worked well in the past is not necessarily the best way going forward. So it requires not just a technology change, but also a change in management, a change in mindset, and a change in culture.
You mentioned the artificial intelligence, AI words there, they're on everyone's lips, it's what everyone's talking about. Where are we at with AI and what progress is happening? Because people have expressed some concern that AI still has an author, there are still biases in algorithms. So how is that being overcome now, and what's the progress that's happening in that area?
Well, both parts of what you said are true. We are at an inflection point where the technology is really taking off. It's becoming vastly more powerful than it was even just 5 or 10 years ago, and that's why there's this gold rush to take advantage of the technology. And many firms that were never affected by AI are going to be affected either because they use it themselves or because some competitor is going to come in. We've developed a tool that measures susceptibility to machine learning that can rank all the companies as to how susceptible they are. At the same time, these same powerful technologies that can create vast wealth can also be used in inaccurate ways, and they can create biases in hiring or who gets credit, not necessarily intentionally, but simply because the systems are based on the data that they get, and if the data is biased, then the decisions will be biased. So if they're based on hiring that in the past has been biased, then the new system isn't going to know any better, and it's going to do the same kind of biased hiring. In fact, it may amplify and perpetuate it.
So there needs to be care taken around AI, but it has such huge capabilities and possibilities for the future, doesn't it? And we're just seeing the very start of it, really.
Yeah, I think we're in the very early days. We're in the first part of the game right now. Over the next 10 or 20 years, almost every industry is going to be dramatically transformed. Even if the technology froze today, which is not going to, it would take 10 or 20 years to just implement the awe-inspiring innovations that we have already invented, because it takes that long to change your business processes, to educate your customers, to reskill your workforce. But at the same time as we're doing all that, of course the technology is advancing. So we have a tidal wave of change that I expect to happen over the next decade.
With all of that in mind, what talent do you think these companies need to be seeking out, and how do they retain that talent?
Well, there's many kinds of talent. First and foremost, I would of course mention people who know about machine learning. This is a skilled data scientists, machine learning experts, AI experts. That's very rare right now. We're trying to train as many as we can at MIT and elsewhere. I have a course called the Analytics Lab where we're churning out about 120 students every year to learn these skills. But perhaps more subtly, it's not just data scientists. There are a lot of other skills a bit more in demand. As AI automates some of the routine parts of the job, the human connection, the creativity, the persuasion, those are all things that become more important. Machines can't do any of those things, and that means that humans who have those skills will be especially valuable. And then last but not least, I would put the biggest premium on people who combine the machine learning with those human skills. People who can bridge those worlds, who understand the customer and what the customer needs and wants, but also understand the technology and what the technology can do. If you can combine those skills, you can write your own ticket.
You've talked a lot about platforms as well, and this is something this industry are particularly interested in. What's the best architecture around that at the moment, and what should this industry be learning about?
Well, the platform revolution has created amazing wealth. If you look at the $100 billion, even $1 trillion companies we have in our society today, they're almost all platform companies. And this kind of technology was not very important and practically didn't exist a couple of decades ago. The thing to understand about it is the economics of platforms is actually quite different than traditional networks or other types of product-based companies. It's based on something called two-sided networks. We describe it in our book, but the essence of it is that you have network effects between two different products and two different groups of people. Uber drivers and Uber riders have two different apps, and the value of one app depends on the number of people using the opposite app. So there's kind of a cross-network effect. And this is true also with credit cards, it's true with game systems, it's true with app ecosystems for the Apple or the Android. Each time you look at one of these successful platform companies, under the hood is a two-sided network. The economics of two-sided networks got Nobel Prizes for people like my colleague Jean Tirole, who understood it, but I'd say most managers still don't understand it very well.
Exactly what you've said there. What would you think are the key things that this industry and people working in it now need to embrace if they are to succeed? They need to be curious and have very open minds.
They need to be curious and have open minds. They need to know how to curate an ecosystem. When you have a successful platform, what you do is you find the companies that you want to have as part of your ecosystem, and you help them thrive, you help them become profitable. You have some different levers for doing that. One of the interesting ones is pricing. In two-sided networks, it often makes sense to lower the price on one side so that you can make more money on the other side. Maybe you even give one side away for free, or in some cases, you subsidize it. You pay people, say, to use your credit card so you can make more money on the merchant side of the two-sided network. These are all some of the levers that you have at your disposal, and if you play them just right, you can build your app ecosystem, you can build your platform, you can build your network in a way that creates a lot of value, not just for yourself, but for your customers and for your partners.
Fascinating insights. Thank you so much for sharing them with us here at FundForum, Erik.
It's absolutely a pleasure.